We are working on the test that Jesus went through at the Egyptian mystery schools in the Aquarian Gospel. He wanted to have the experiences that every human would have on the earth. He wanted to know what mankind faces. And so we've been going through these tests. We're up to test 5, so we've been through the first 4. And they're all about the human condition and the human experience. We see emotions coming up from the people around him, from within himself, and we see how he has been able to maintain faithfulness, non-judgment, generosity, and he was able to release the enticements of the world, what the world had to offer, instead of following spirit. So if you want to hear more about them, they're on YouTube, and I highly recommend you can watch them again and revisit. We're at the 5th lesson. So I wanted just to begin walking us with him through this experience. This is the Aquarian Gospel of the 52nd chapter. And you know that every time he completes a lesson, he gets to rest for a minute. So they have taken him to a beautiful grove, and he's been given time to meditate. And it says, the sacred temple groves were rich with statues, monuments, and shrines, and here Jesus loved to walk and meditate. After he had conquered the self, he talked with nature in these groves for 40 days. After he had arrived at the lessons that he had achieved, he talked with nature for 40 days. Remember when he first went to the temple to submit himself to these tests, he said, okay guys, I'm going to submit to you, I want these experiences. Remember they said to him, you already know. And he said, no, I want to experience what man experiences. So he submitted to this. And in this moment, he has found a place in their temple where he can feel himself, where he can feel who he is. He can talk to nature, he can meditate and talk to God, and he's thriving in this space, you see. So he could be himself, and you would imagine, if it were you, that might in itself be the test, eh? To meditate and to talk to nature and to be in the energy for 40 days and to really go to that state of spirit. So he had that experience. 40 days means as long as it takes. So we have no idea how long he was there, but as long as it takes. So it says, then a guide came and took chains and bound him, foot and hand, and cast him into a den of hungry beasts, of unclean birds and creeping things. The den was as dark as night. The wild beast howled, the birds in fury screamed, and the reptiles hissed. So he was having an experience of being in a state of heaven, and then found himself in a state of hell, being totally blissfully talking to spirit, and then found himself bound. The priest bound him and threw him into a pit that he could not see, and there were animals obviously hungry and screaming at him. And you would feel like you had been flipped, like the environment went from being positive and supportive to being completely threatening, right? And so I can describe this to you now, but I also want you to be aware of how often you experience it in your world. Where you're walking, you're doing something, you're in your world, and you feel safe, and you feel blissful, and you feel happy, and all of a sudden, on a dime, something happens that throws your consciousness into a state where you feel bound, you have no sight, you cannot see, it's dark, and you feel threat all about you. You know what I'm talking about? And it doesn't have to be physical threat, it could be in relationships, jobs, emotions, could be anything, where we move from that space of comfort to the space of being challenged. And I know you do this because we talk about it in our sessions when we counsel. So, the human mind first would then likely say, Is this how it's supposed to be? I've submitted to these tests. Is this how it's supposed to be? Am I supposed to be going through this? And that is what you do immediately when you go into that state of threat. Oh my God, what have I done? Have I done something wrong? Is this the truth of it? Is this how life really is? We immediately dismiss the heaven we just came from. You realize you do that? You immediately say, oh, heaven, no, that's not real. This is real. This is real. This is when the rubber meets the road because I'm being threatened. My life is being threatened. This is when it gets real for me. Isn't it interesting that we as humans make that real instead of the bliss? We negate the bliss. Now it's real. You with me? Are you seeing yourself again?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. When we find ourselves in a state of struggle, that's typically where we go, which is more real, and in this dimension, that condition of threat is more real. And we can ask, is it real because it's familiar? Is it real because we had to come out of it to go to the state of heaven? I was in that state of heaven, now I'm back into the state of threat? Is that why it's easier? Maybe the state of heaven wasn't real, and this is really real? Do you understand? Okay. All right. In those moments, we have to ask, where is our power? In the garden, Jesus was communing with nature. There was an exchange. He was talking to nature, so where was his power? It was in harmony with the environment, right? So when he is thrown into the pit, where is the power? It's outside of self. He's been bound. He cannot move. He has no power there. He cannot see. And he hears the threat. So power is outside of self. Everything outside of him has more power than he does. So Jesus says this. Are y'all walking with him yet? Okay. Who was it that bound me thus? Who was that? And why did I meekly sit to be bound with chains? Why did I allow this? Who was that and why did I allow this? So we see he's coming into realization. He submitted to another's consciousness. Why? He's asking himself why. This gets a little bit specific, so if you'll stay with me. When you move into an agreement with someone, he agreed to submit to the schools, right? He agreed to submit to the tests. He's been there for a long time at this point, a long time. So when he is in this agreement with them, by default, he has agreed to submit to whatever they do. By default, he did that. And I'm bringing this awareness to you because oftentimes you say, well, how did this happen? I didn't choose this experience. I didn't choose to be threatened. How did this happen? When you come into agreement with someone else's consciousness and you agree to be in relationship with that consciousness, sometimes things happen by right of their consciousness. And you've already said yes to it because you've agreed. You understand me? Okay. And this happens all the time. It sneaks up on you. When you say yes to any consciousness, you are entering into an agreement with them. And things come upon you by their creation, not your own, because you have said yes to it. Okay, everybody clear on that? All right. So when Jesus says, who was this that bound me and why did I sit there and meekly let him do it? He is saying, okay, all right, wait a minute. I did agree to this, but wait a minute. This is not what I am choosing. I was in harmony. Now I'm not in harmony. I was loving nature. Now nature's yelling at me. This is not who I am. Wait a minute. Okay. So he realized that it was not his world. This is not who I am. And it's almost like he came to the reality, I need to be who I am wherever I am. No matter what agreement I have made, I need to show up as me. I need to be the chooser. So whatever agreement I'm in, I'm going to be who I am wherever I am. Got it? Okay. So, then he said, as he's thinking, I tell you, none has the power to bind a human soul. So he's coming to what? His spiritual truth. No one has the power to bind a human soul. So why am I doing this? No one has the power to do this. And What are fetters made of? What are these chains made of? The great chains that bind us. In essence, he decided to look at the matter that had been created to bind him, to put him in a state of potential fear. Do you understand what I'm saying? All of our chains are different. So, in his might he rose, and what he thought were chains were worthless cords that parted as his touch. He laughed and said, "The chains that bind men to the carcasses of earth are forged in fancy shop and made of air. They are illusions' fires. If man will stand erect, the power of will, in his power of will, his chains will fall like worthless rags. For will and faith are stronger than the stoutest chains men have ever made." So when you realize you're bound, to realize that the chains that bind you are not stronger than you. That's the realization. The chains that bind you are not stronger than you. Has anybody ever had a job, not one like we spoke of, but a job where you felt like you were trapped in it?
Sure.
Okay. A big hand in the air.
Still in the air.
And you feel like the chains that are binding you give you no choice. He is saying that we have to make a decision to move. We have to realize that those chains were part of an agreement, and we need to move. Now, most of us that really deal with chains, we say this. We come to the realization that we're bound in chains, and we say, and I'm just sharing this with you so you can be aware. We say, okay, these chains, I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm going to take these chains off of myself. But I'm not going to make it by myself. I need someone to help me. Someone put me here into this situation that's negative for me, and I need someone to help me get out of it. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then we look for someone to help us get out of the chains, and I need other people to help me to survive. To get other people, I need to do what they want. If I'm going to get somebody to help me, I need to do what they want. So what other chains am I putting back on? Obligation. So we typically move from one set of chains to another. That's what I want you to get. We in our human state will trade one set of chains for another. And it actually requires us standing and being aware that the chains are always made of fear. And if we're afraid we can't do it by ourselves, you can't do it by yourself. You know, if you're afraid you and God don't have it in you to do it, then you're going to be looking for people. You're going to be putting chains on all the time. It's fear-based. All chains that limit you are fear-based. And it doesn't matter where you are. Okay. Will and faith melt fear. Did you get that really clearly? Jesus said, "I will be who I am no matter where I am." And then it says, Jesus stood erect among the hungry beasts, birds, and then he spoke. But I want us to stop for just a second. He's in the darkness. He realizes, I submitted to this. He realizes, this is not my world. These chains are not mine. He lets them go, and then he stands up in the midst of the challenge. That's where most of us stop. We don't stand up. We don't stand up in the midst of the challenge and say, my world, God's world, my world. Because the beasts are still there and it's still dark, and you can't see, and it's still scary. But we have to first stand up before the scary goes. Because you know what you're really doing when you stand up? You're holding that central core so strong within you. You're taking all of the power that has been given out to everything outside you, the crying beast, the this, the that, the whatever. You submit it to this experience, and you stand up and you're saying, me. I'm pulling my power back to me. I'm saying who I am is who I am. And I'm going to stand in the middle of it, and I'm going to be myself. Now, if you've ever done that in a job that's uncomfortable, the environment may or may not like you, but guess what you will feel? You'll feel free. It doesn't matter if you stay or don't stay. You'll feel free. Because your power has now come back to your central core. And you're owning who you are. And we stand. We have to stand in the middle of the scary. We can't wait till the scary's gone to stand. Or the scary will never go. Are you guys getting that? We've got to stand in the scary. We've got to stand in the middle of all the crap. In the middle of all the crap. Have you ever had bills just crazy and you weren't financially confident? Have you ever just piled them all up and just prayed on them? Just pray on them. I'm just going to say, God, I need you now. And I'm going to hold the energy. This has no power over me. I am your child. We will make it through this. You show me what I need to do. I'm not going to be afraid. I'm going to stand on this. You guys hearing me? You can do it in any situation. It doesn't have to become a dire situation. You can do it with anything, standing in your power. Okay. And I emphasize that because that's where we stay seated. Yeah, I'm getting it. Yeah, I'm getting it. And when they do this, I'll be able to take my next step. I don't want to be afraid, but when they get the beasties out of here, I'll be okay. No, you got to stand in your truth. Okay. Then Jesus said, what is the darkness that envelops me? It's the absence of light. And what is light? It's the breath of God vibrating in the rhythm of rapid thought. And then he said, let there be light. And with a mighty will, he stirred up the ethers. And the vibrations reached the plane of light, and there was light. He went to truth. He went to truth. It's just absence of God vibrating. Well, we can fix that. We're just going to let God vibrate. Now, if he hadn't stood in his power center and did not have his power within, would the ethers have begun to vibrate? No, because power would have been outside of self. And so he called forth the light, and when he called forth the light and it began to vibrate, guess what was not there? The darkness was gone, and there were no animals. The place was empty. All the creepy things that were threatening him were gone. When we stand in the light, when we stand in what is true for us, we are actually creating our reality. That which seemed to be a threat is no longer, because it has no power over you. You know, the den could have probably been filled with puppies, cutty little puppies, you know? Because he loved nature, he talked with nature. I want you to really feel the truth of this. When you are challenged and you can pull your power to your central core and you can begin to remember who you are and call forth the divine knowing that you know, you're actually creating a space for you in that environment. And that's what he did. I love nature. I'm not going to fight with nature. I love it. He created a space for him in the midst of where he was. You guys getting it? Okay. This was his world now. He was choosing his world. All right. Going to our truth. We have to go back to our truth. And you know, just a little bit of hint here, guys, of us who are learning as we go. If you had been in a state of heavenly bliss talking with nature, and then you went into a space of challenge, maybe just remembering the heavenly bliss is enough of a truth. Wait, I wasn't here an hour ago. Okay, I know I can go back. Wait, I have done this before. I will do it again. Wait, do you know how many healings you guys have had? Do you know how many you've forgotten? Yeah. Go back. Pull up a healing. Wait, no, I had that healing. Okay, it can happen again. Pull up anything that you can even draw on to bring you to truth. And sometimes those relative truths of matter that you experienced are more powerful than just, I'm God's child, I'm God's child, I'm God's child, and affirming until you can get it. Sometimes going back and just grabbing something that you did experience and bring it forward. Go, no, man, this is true. I can have this again. Pull it forward. You hear me? Okay. All right. The darkness was gone, the animals were gone, and now Jesus speaks about fear. Okay, guys, listen to this. Of what are souls afraid? Fear is the chariot which man rides to death. And when he finds himself within the chamber of the dead, he learns that he has been deceived. His chariot was a myth. Do you really want that end when you cross over? Dang, I could have done so much more and I was afraid. Can you believe I was afraid? I was afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid I might not make my bills? Oh, okay. Afraid that I might lose a relationship that wasn't working? Oh, okay. What was I afraid of? Possibly afraid of owning my own power. Possibly afraid of letting my central core get so strong that I could stand up. Isn't that the base fear of most of it? I'm afraid of my own ability to be God's child. Man, I could have done that and this and this. Woo, it would have been great. I could have danced all the way through life. It would have been great. But I have to own my central core. And you know when you die and you feel those feelings, you know what you say? Put me back in. I need to do this better. And then you forget. All right. This beautiful fear of our own power keeps us from living, you know. Fear of your power keeps you from living. So Jesus said, someday all men's lessons will be learned, and from the den of unclean beasts and birds and creeping things he will rise to walk in the light. And then he saw a ladder made of gold, and he climbed to the top, and the white-robed priest awaited him. No one says a word. Every time he does these tests, no one says a word. The Hierophant reached forth his hand to bless. He placed in Jesus' hand another scroll, and on this was written the word heroism. It said the Logos, which is the Word, which was Jesus, had encountered fear and a phantom host, and in the conflict he achieved the victory. There is always a golden ladder, guys. Hey, take that with you. There's always a golden ladder. You just look for it, call forth your thing, and look for it. In all the prior tests, Jesus was reacting to the people's energy. He was dealing with emotional stuff. He was dealing with the people wanting to manipulate him. He was dealing with all kinds of things. This is the test, the fifth test, where the rubber does meet the road. This is the test, where can I own the central core of power that I am? Can I know I'm God's child? Can I know it? Now, all of us have to go through this test. You realize this? It can be simple. It can be an easy test. It can be the most horrendous, fear-based catastrophe you might want to create. It doesn't matter. When you move through the test, you move through the test. And the person that creates the simple test and graduates with the same degree as the person who created the huge drama. It's your choice. But it is a test of knowing that no matter where I am, there I am. No matter where I am, there I am. And here's a key about going into someone else's consciousness. When you've agreed to move into somebody else's consciousness and they've agreed to accept you, there's a little thing that they forget about. They've also agreed to you. You've agreed to them, but they've also agreed to you. So when you build and become and light, they've also said yes to that. Because they knew there was a slim chance that might happen. So you're not hurting or harming. And then you decide if the relationship continues or not. Do you hear? You're not going to hurt or harm any person if you rise to be you. Where I am, there I am. Wherever I am, there I am. And that's okay. And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're wild and crazy, quiet and kind. There you are. So, Jesus fully embodied his power. This was a test of believing in yourself. Courage to be, not courage to fight. And we always think of courage as fighting. He didn't get courage to fight the animals. He didn't get courage to conquer the situation. It was courage to be the truth. I will not live in fear. I will not meekly follow another's lead just because I haven't chosen to be myself. I will not meekly follow another's lead just because I have not chosen to be myself. I will not live in fear. Okay, ready? Here's our review. Agreements. Be aware. Be aware of the consciousness level you're agreeing to interact with. And ask yourself, do I belong here? Do I fit here? Can my home live here? Can I be who I am here? And if your answer is no, do you really want to go there? Because you're going to be bound instantly. If you can't be who you are in that relationship, you are instantly bound. Got it? Okay. Compromise. When you feel fear, you are automatically compromised. Anytime you are afraid, your light is compromised. Got it? So, when we are in agreement and we begin to feel as if our light is compromised, we realize who we are, gather your inner power, realize who you are, and then what do? Does anybody know? You stand up. You stand up. Good guys. You stand up. You stand in your power. You don't hurt anybody. You don't lecture anybody. You don't teach anybody. You don't say anything. You stand in your power. And then you say, what is true here? What's true? What's true for me here? And then you create your space. The space that is true for you. And you have not hurt or harmed anyone. You find the truth, you declare it, and you will find yourself free. When you are who you are, wherever you are free. Or you could say, I am, wherever I am. I am, wherever I am. The next test that Jesus goes through could not have been passed without this core. The rest of life's journeys, as Christed beings of God, we cannot walk without this core. Because life throws enough at us for us to be afraid, does it not? Mm-hmm. There's enough going on in the world that makes us think we should be afraid of this or that, or what about that? And we talk about potential disasters all the time, don't we? I mean, isn't the news full of potential disasters? And do they metaphysically assess and go, well, if the consciousness changes, that will be averted? No. They magnetize it. We don't have to walk that path. And your path doesn't necessarily look like my path, but they are all the paths of truth. God love, because you're God's child. Everyone say, I got that. All right, let's go within. Put your feet on the floor. See a beautiful column of light come over you, just a radiant light. Feel that love of God surrounding you. And feel the beautiful presence of Jesus Christ. You may sense, see, or just feel, or just ask. Ask that the energy of Jesus Christ join you in your column of light. And feel your heart opening. Feel a sense of humility, humbleness, love. Take him by the hand in your mind's eye and say, show me. And feel yourself lifting up that column of light. And I want you to feel yourself being lifted to a space, Jesus at your side, where you can sense or see a moment in your world, probably today, where you are bound. Feel that energy. And as you look at it, it doesn't even look like you, does it? It doesn't feel like you, because in this moment with the Christ, you are not bound. If you see a vision, project yourself into that vision now and be in that binding energy. Whatever those details are, be there, be inside that physical body, and feel the Christ by your side. And say, I am not afraid. What are these chains that bind me? And as you ask, they fall away. I choose my space. And see yourself standing in the midst. I am not afraid. I have will within me that chooses the God path. I have faith within me that knows God and I are one. God love flows through me now. And I let that will and faith light my heart. And I want you in your mind, in your heart, just say, let there be light, and let the light pour through this situation. Let there be light. Let there be light. And feel it just shift and change. Wherever I am. And see a beautiful golden ladder that leads you back to where you stood before. And find yourself standing back with the Christ and the vision melting away. I am not afraid. I now call forth all of the power that I have invested in anything outside myself. I recall that power back to me. And just let it come back. I now choose my world. Feel the love of God pouring through you. Feel that light. I am God's child. I choose my world. And take a breath. And very gently, feel your awareness coming back into your chair. Father, Mother God, we ask that you bless each one who hears these words, that they find the truth of their being, that their life will be a celebration of choices, a dance of the divine. And we thank you. And we say, yea, God. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes. Well, did you enjoy our journey today?
Yes.
Did you remember when I said, when you pass the test at the smallest level, you pass the test? Those of you that were able to, in this meditative moment, pass the test? Pass the test. Now say, yea, God.
Yeah, God.